Welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast, your number one source for making money in the medical ancillary sector. Mike and Viv bring you the latest information from lab services, pharmacy, diagnostic testing, and so much more. The latest in ancillary services will be right around the corner. Welcoming the hosts of the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast, here's Mike and Viv.
Hello and welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, and joined as always, and in person again, Viv Hudson. How you doing, Viv?
I'm great, thanks, Mike.
And what are we going to talk about, Viv?
Mike's stuck for words, so he's going to put the ball in my court. But anyway, I'd like to talk about just equipment. So from my perspective, from what I've seen, is some of the equipment that's available that I've been exposed to has been some of the best revenue generating solutions for doctors. Now, for you as a sales rep, it can be like a bit of a one-time wonder because you get that one hit of commission, but the equipment sales can make a doctor a lot of money. So what's your experience in that field, Mike?
Well, you know, I actually have not sold a lot of equipment. I have sold some in the past. You're always fighting the uphill climb that is, doctors have had bad experiences in the past with other pieces of equipment. It is a bigger risk for them because they're biting off a chunk. They're taking out a loan in a lot of cases for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So that's obviously a risk, and that's something that they're going to have to think about. And I was just telling you before we started the podcast, I was working in the dental industry, and there was a piece of equipment that a lot of doctors purchased that sold for about $120,000. And the thing ended up not really living up to expectations, and most doctors said they use it as a coat rack. So you have stories like that do make them gun shy at times. What's been your experience?
Well, definitely I can see that, and from my experience, it's not always an easy sale, but I did have a sale that I can say that I really thought that this doctor was not going to buy this piece of equipment from me, and it was almost textbook. You know, I think I closed him within 5 sales calls, but, you know, he had the safety of being able to try the equipment and do a demo with it before he purchased it. So they actually gave him that peace of mind as to the value of the equipment. But I can see that some doctors are still very reticent, even though that they have the opportunity for seeing how much money the equipment can make, and it also can vary so much from state to state.
Absolutely. And, you know, the things in my career, the things I've been most successful selling were the things that I just, deep in my heart, I believed in the most. I believe, like, you are an idiot for not buying this. If I was it, I would be buying this. This is the best program or the best piece of equipment since sliced bread. So, if in that spirit, if you had $1 million riding on it, you had to sell a piece of equipment next month in July, which piece of equipment would you go out there with that you would have the most confidence that this is a home run?
I'd have to say the fall prevention, mainly because I know with 2 patients or more a day, I mean, you're looking at $500 plus in revenue. The confidence I would have around fall prevention is that 1 in 3 seniors are falling. And if we can save one person from falling, I mean, that's potentially $20,000 or more in cost savings. So doctors like to be heroes, and if they can stop a patient from falling, then I think that is one of the best pieces of equipment that they can use, because the remedy for it is that the patient gets some take-home exercises, and then they can come back and be retested so they can actually see the results as well. They can make a difference.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That VAT is probably the best piece of equipment that I've sold. It's a tank. It's tried, true, and tested. But of course, one of the objections that you get selling any piece of equipment in this business where CPT codes come and go in terms of reimbursements, that's one of the things that makes doctors gun shy too, is that this program might be a great program now and I might spend $30,000-$40,000 on a machine, but what happens if this program goes away? What happens if the reimbursements get cut? So you could just speak to the VAT. What are you telling a doctor who gives you that objection?
Well, the thing is, if you are looking at this equipment and you know that you can generate $250+ in revenue per patient, many doctors, when they get a piece of equipment, if they believe in it too, they can pump through all their senior patients and get them tested straight away. And often they can recoup their money within 4 to 8 weeks. Well, if you could double your money in an 8-week period, would you do it?
Heck yeah. If I could do it in a 4-year period, I think I'd do it.
And that's the thing, is like, if you get your money back and then you make 1, 2, 3, 4 or more times that amount of money and you had to throw it over your shoulder in a year's time, who cares? You've got your money back already.
Well, not to mention, this wasn't meant to be a VAT podcast, but since we're talking about it, the VAT has a long track record, and plus you get other benefits from it. You get meaningful use credits, and not only that, besides the revenue model, this, as you mentioned earlier, this helps patients because this not only identifies patients that have a vestibular issue, but it comes with a treatment plan. Vestibular issues are correctable.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is the nice thing with this particular piece of equipment, as I said before, is that you can get results with your patients. So it's not just about perhaps testing them and not having a solution to give them. You have a very sound solution, and many patients, I think it's 80% or more of patients, actually benefit from the exercises and see some kind of improvement. So I think there's a lot of value, absolutely, in this equipment, and if doctors can move past the mindset, if they're going to take out a 5-year lease on this piece of equipment, but they've got their money back within 1 to 2 months, well, it's their choice about how they finance it. So, and that can still work in their favour, because if they're still paying for it in 5 years' time, it still works as a tax write-off anyway. So I think equipment is great.
And okay, Viv. So what about financing? Doctors don't always have $40,000 waiting to spend on a piece of equipment. So what options are available for them?
That is a great question, Mike. And sometimes they don't have $40,000. That's for sure. A lot of doctors do have. Well, I say a lot, but some doctors do have problems getting financing for a variety of reasons, and if you kind of understood the nature of their business, you can certainly have a degree of empathy about why that might be. But with some of the financing options that exist, there is often, for doctors with good credit, they can get 90 days of financing where they don't have to pay a penny. And for many pieces of equipment, they can actually make that amount of revenue to actually fully pay for the device within that short period of time. And I've had doctors do the financing where they actually can do, it's called futures funding, and they can actually pay off that whole amount within a 6-month period, I believe it is. And that enables them to actually do the financing without even having to pay any interest. So there's a lot of different options, and also, as I mentioned earlier, just talking about doctors that can get their money back very quickly, but they've taken out a 5-year loan on that piece of equipment, and then those CPT codes are no longer valid. They can still get that tax write-off from that, even though they've probably already got their money back many times over in the first 12 months of having it.
Is this more of when you're selling equipment, are you selling to office managers or are you selling to physicians?
Well, it's definitely the physicians that's got to be convinced, and sometimes I'll get a call because the physician has expressed an interest, and then I have the conversation with the office manager. But ultimately, the decision pretty much rests with the doctor. So if you're talking equipment, you always want to get in front of a doctor to talk about it, because at the end of the day, nobody can explain your solution like you can. So relaying information through an office manager is not always the best option.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Viv, I appreciate the insight on equipment sales. So thank you again.
Thanks, Mike, and it's been great to be here.